You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when you realize they're not really interested in you, only what you can do for them. You give, and yet when you fall short, when you're no longer useful, that affection vanishes like smoke in the wind. We live in a world that thrives on utility. Relationships, careers, friendships, they all have a hidden currency. The moment you stop contributing, the moment you cease to serve their needs, you'll see just how quickly they fade away. They're not invested in you. They're invested in what you bring to the table. But let me tell you something, it doesn't have to break you. It can fuel you. Let their abandonment be the spark that ignites a fire within you. Let their disregard for your value be the reason you rise higher than they could ever imagine. Let their lack of love for you when you're no longer useful be the reason you become indispensable to yourself. There is power in being the person who knows their worth regardless of who recognizes it. There is power in realizing that your value is not determined by someone else's need for you. No, your worth is intrinsic. Your strength is yours to command. Let this truth sting. They only love you when you're useful. They only love you when you're giving, when you're filling their void. The moment you stop being a resource, they stop being interested. And that, my friend, is the cold reality of this world. But this is not a reason to despair, it is the reason to rise. The world is not fair. People will use you, exploit your time, your energy, your skills, and when you are drained, when you have nothing left to give, they will be gone. So why waste your time chasing validation from those who only love you in your most useful moments? If you want to be truly powerful, understand this, use the fact that they will only love you when you're useful as a weapon. Use it to drive you to become stronger, more independent, more self-reliant than anyone could ever imagine. Build your life not on the love of others, but on your own power, your own strength, your own worth. They may only love you when you're useful, but you are capable of so much more. Become the person who loves yourself when no one else will. And when you stand tall, when you have everything they've ever wanted and more, they'll come crawling back, pretending they were there the whole time. But by then it won't matter. You'll know who you are. And that, my friend, is the ultimate power. So let their love be conditional. Let their respect be based on what you can do for them. And use that to fuel the relentless drive inside you. You don't need them. You never did. They only love you when you're useful. But that won't stop you. It will make you unstoppable. You. People often love you for what you can do for them, not for who you truly are. This may be a hard pill to swallow, but it's the cold reality of how many people operate in the world today. Love, affection, and appreciation are too often conditional, based not on the depth of your character or the person you are, but on the value you can provide to others. This is the true nature of utility in relationships, whether they are familial, romantic, or even professional. We live in a world that thrives on exchanges of value, and while that may sound transactional, it's the driving force behind many human connections. People love you when you're useful to them. When you can offer something they need, whether it's support, resources, attention, or even validation. But the moment you stop being useful, the love they once showed you evaporates, often replaced by indifference or neglect. Think about the relationships you've had in your life. Have you ever been the one who gave more than you received? Have you ever been the one who put in the effort, invested time, and offered yourself to others, only to find that once you stopped being able to give, they no longer had any interest in you? It happens far too often, and it's painful when it does. The truth is, this isn't something that's personal. It's not a reflection of your worth as a person. It's just the way people operate when their needs are the priority. People love you because of what you can do for them, not because of who you are as an individual. This mindset is pervasive and goes beyond simple transactions. It affects how people interact with one another on every level. Think of a friendship where one person is always the one who listens, who is there in times of need, who provides guidance and support, while the other seems to only reach out when they need something. It can be emotionally exhausting because the love seems one-sided. You give, but it feels like they only give when they want something in return. This is a common dynamic in many relationships, but it's something that's often overlooked or justified. In many cases, people don't even realize that they are only there for someone when they can get something out of it. It's a subconscious act driven by the need to fulfill their own desires and needs. They aren't necessarily bad people, but their love is conditional, tied to what you can do for them. The same pattern can be found in professional relationships. In the workplace, people often build their connections with others based on what benefits they can gain. Colleagues might only show interest in you when they need help on a project or when they're trying to leverage your skills for their advantage. Once that task is over, they may forget about you until they need something else. It's not about a genuine desire to connect with you on a human level. It's about what you can provide to them. They love your work, your abilities, your competence, but when those things aren't relevant anymore, that affection fades. This cycle can be incredibly draining because it constantly forces you to perform, to be useful in some way. When you're constantly pouring your energy into others, but they only care about you when you're giving, you start to feel like a tool or a resource rather than a person. You begin to question whether people truly care for you or if they're simply taking advantage of your utility. It's easy to get caught in the trap of believing that if you just give a little more, if you just provide a little extra, they'll love you back. But this cycle is never ending. The truth is, they will love you for as long as you are useful to them, and the moment you stop meeting their needs, their interest in you will fade. This doesn't just apply to friends or colleagues, it also affects romantic relationships. In many relationships, partners may only appreciate each other when they're fulfilling specific roles or expectations. A person may feel loved and wanted when they're providing attention, affection, or material support. However, when one partner stops meeting the other's needs, whether it's emotional, physical, or financial, the love tends to diminish. Relationships, in this sense, can become transactional. They aren't built on the deep, unconditional love that transcends what you can provide for the other person. They are based on what you can give and how you can fulfill a role. When that usefulness fades, so does the love. The painful truth is that many people will only love you for your usefulness. They will love you for your ability to make their lives easier, for your skills, for the comfort you bring. They will love you when you are giving and performing, when you are fulfilling their needs. But when you stop being able to offer those things, when you're no longer serving them in the way they expect, their affection will quickly dissipate. And this is not always a malicious act, it's just how many people function in relationships, the exchange of value. They love you because of what you do, not who you are. But this harsh reality doesn't mean that you are powerless in this situation. In fact, it should be a wake-up call for you. It should drive you to realize that your worth is not defined by your usefulness to others. The love you receive should not be based on what you can do for someone, but on who you are as a person. When you understand that people may only love you for your utility, you can take back control over your life. You can stop bending over backward to meet the demands and needs of others, only to be discarded when you can no longer provide. When you start to realize that love is often conditional, you can shift your focus away from seeking external validation and start investing in yourself. You don't need others to validate your worth. You are valuable simply because you exist. You don't need to be constantly useful to earn love and affection. In fact, you should be cautious of people who only show up when you're serving a purpose in their lives. True relationships, real love, should not be built on what you can provide, but on who you are as a person. When you stop seeking validation based on your utility, you begin to see your own value beyond what you can offer. You stop being a resource and become an individual with inherent worth. It's about realizing that your life doesn't revolve around constantly meeting the expectations of others, and that your self-worth is not tied to what you can do for people. The most freeing thing you can do is to let go of the need for others to love you only because of your usefulness. You are more than that. You are deserving of love for who you are, not just what you can give. The cycle of giving without receiving, of loving others without being loved back in return, can be emotionally exhausting. But it is important to realize that you don't have to stay stuck in this pattern. You don't have to continue being used for your usefulness. You can choose to put yourself first, to recognize your own worth, and to stop giving to people who only love you when you're fulfilling a role. You don't have to accept conditional love. You can demand real, unconditional love that values you for who you truly are. Abandonment can feel like a cold, biting force in your life, a sharp reminder of how fragile connections can be. It stings in ways that nothing else can, leaving you feeling discarded, unimportant, and alone. But it's in these moments of feeling abandoned that the greatest transformation can occur. Rather than letting abandonment crush your spirit, you can use it as fuel to ignite something far greater within you. It can become the spark that fuels your ambition, sharpens your focus, and pushes you toward a life you've only dreamed of. The choice is yours to let abandonment define you as a victim, or to use it as a stepping stone toward your own greatness. At the core of abandonment lies the deep pain of rejection. Whether it's from a partner, a friend, a family member, or even a community, being abandoned leaves you questioning your worth. It makes you feel like you are no longer needed, like your presence has become irrelevant. But what if, instead of sinking into the sadness of abandonment, you saw it as an opportunity to rise? The world is filled with stories of individuals who have faced the sting of rejection, of being left behind, and yet have gone on to achieve extraordinary things. They didn't let abandonment break them. They allowed it to drive them. The first step in using abandonment as fuel is to stop seeing it as a sign of your inadequacy. It's easy to internalize rejection, to believe that if someone walked away from you, it's because you weren't enough. But the truth is, abandonment is often a reflection of the other person's limitations, not yours. It's a reflection of their inability to see your value, or their unwillingness to work through the difficult moments that all relationships face. Their departure says more about them than it does about you. When you stop equating their actions with your worth, you free yourself from the emotional chains that keep you tied to their judgment. Now, with that understanding in place, it's time to turn the tables. Instead of viewing abandonment as a wound that needs constant healing, look at it as an opportunity for growth. When someone leaves your life, they create a void, and that void, if you allow it, can become the space where your dreams take root. The empty space left by their departure can be filled with your own ambitions, passions, and goals. What would happen if you channeled that pain into something productive? What if, instead of crying over what was lost, you focused on what could be gained? Using abandonment as fuel requires a shift in mindset. It's about viewing setbacks as setups for something greater. It's about reframing the situation and asking yourself, how can I turn this loss into something that propels me forward? Rejection doesn't define you, it refines you. The moment you embrace the pain of abandonment, rather than running from it, you start to build the mental and emotional strength necessary to achieve greatness. One of the most powerful things abandonment can teach you is resilience. When people leave, it's easy to feel like you've been defeated. But resilience is about bouncing back, learning to stand tall, even after being knocked down. You can use the pain of abandonment to develop a deeper sense of inner strength. Instead of relying on others to fill your emotional needs, you learn to rely on yourself. You become your own source of validation. The more you practice resilience, the more you develop a mindset that sees obstacles as opportunities to grow stronger. You learn that nothing in life can truly break you unless you allow it to. And with every setback, you become more unshakable. As you learn to bounce back from abandonment, you also begin to rediscover your sense of purpose. Rejection often forces you to reevaluate your life, your goals, and your path. It's the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. Being left behind can make you ask yourself important questions. What do I want out of life? What am I really passionate about? What is it that I am willing to fight for? The answers to these questions can often lead you down a path of greater fulfillment than you ever imagined. Sometimes it takes losing something or someone to realize what truly matters to you. Use the pain of abandonment to refine your focus and reconnect with your deepest desires. Abandonment also gives you the freedom to reinvent yourself. When someone leaves, they may take a part of you with them. But that's not the end of the story. It's just the beginning of a new chapter. Without the influence or expectations of that person in your life, you have the freedom to create your own narrative. You can rewrite your story from the ground up. You can shed old habits, old fears, and old identities that no longer serve you. With every loss, you have the opportunity to reinvent yourself into someone stronger, more authentic, and more aligned with your true purpose. In the face of abandonment, you also learn the power of self-love. When others leave, it forces you to look inward. If you have been relying on others for your self-worth, abandonment can feel like a blow to your identity. But this is where the real magic happens. It's in these moments of solitude that you learn the importance of self-love. You begin to realize that your value doesn't depend on others' opinions or on how useful you are to them. Your worth is inherent, and no one can take that away from you. As you cultivate self-love, you build a foundation that is unshakable, one that will hold you steady even when the world around you seems to crumble. When you harness the power of abandonment, you also unlock the ability to become more independent. For so long, you may have been dependent on others for validation, for love, or for your sense of security. But once you experience the pain of being abandoned, you learn how to stand on your own 2 feet. You become less reliant on others for your happiness and more focused on cultivating your own sense of fulfillment. The more you stand on your own, the more you realize that your happiness and success are within your control. You no longer need to rely on others to make you feel whole. Abandonment can also bring a sense of clarity. When someone leaves your life, it clears the path for something new. The space they once occupied can now be filled with opportunities, new relationships, and new goals. You stop focusing on what's missing and start looking at what's available. The loss of one thing often opens the door to something even better. This clarity allows you to see what you truly need and want in life. It helps you let go of the attachments that were holding you back and embrace the future with open arms. The pain of abandonment can be overwhelming, but it is in these moments of pain that you have the opportunity to build something greater than what was lost. Abandonment forces you to look within yourself to find the strength, the purpose, and the resilience that you didn't even know you had. It teaches you that you are capable of standing on your own, of creating a life that is uniquely yours. You don't need others to validate your worth. You don't need to be useful to anyone to feel valued. The only person whose opinion truly matters is yours. And when you come to realize that, you become unstoppable.
Instead of letting abandonment break you, use it to fuel your journey. Use it to push yourself toward your highest potential. Let it sharpen your focus, make you stronger, and help you rediscover your purpose.
Let the fire that abandonment ignites within you burn brighter than any pain, any loss, any rejection. You are not defined by the people who leave your life. You are defined by the strength you find within yourself to keep going, to keep rising, and to keep achieving. Abandonment can be the greatest gift if you choose to use it as fuel. Knowing your worth independently is perhaps one of the most powerful tools you can possess in life. It's the foundation upon which your confidence is built, the armor that protects you from the world's judgments, and the force that drives you toward success. Yet so many people spend their lives seeking validation from others, waiting for approval, and looking for signs that they matter. The truth is, when you know your worth independently, you no longer need external sources to validate your existence. You learn that your value is inherent, and it doesn't depend on anyone else's opinion or perspective. Too often, people tie their sense of self-worth to their relationships, their job titles, or their material possessions. They believe that who they are is shaped by what others think of them. They feel validated when someone praises them or when they achieve something recognized by society.
This constant need for external validation can be exhausting. It keeps you in a cycle of trying to prove yourself to others, seeking external approval, and never feeling truly secure in who you are. But when you know your worth independently, you break free from this cycle.
You stop looking outside of yourself for the affirmation that can only come from within. This sense of independent worth allows you to walk through life with a sense of inner peace and stability. When you know your worth, you don't feel threatened by the opinions of others. You don't need to chase after approval or validation because you already know that you are enough. This understanding frees you from the need to constantly perform for others or to live up to their expectations. You stop allowing the judgments of others to dictate how you feel about yourself, and instead, you create your own standards for success and happiness. One of the most powerful things about knowing your worth independently is that it allows you to set boundaries. When you value yourself, you know what you deserve, and you are no longer willing to settle for less. You don't allow people to take advantage of you or to treat you in ways that are disrespectful or unkind. You understand that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable, and you protect them accordingly. When you know your worth, you become more selective about who you allow into your life, choosing relationships that nurture and support you rather than those that drain and diminish you. This sense of self-worth also helps you navigate difficult situations with strength and resilience. Life is full of challenges, and it's easy to feel defeated or disheartened when things don't go as planned. But when you know your worth, you understand that setbacks are just temporary. They don't define you. And they certainly don't diminish your value. You know that failure is just a stepping stone on the path to success, and that no one can take away what is inherently yours. This belief in your worth allows you to keep going, even when the road gets tough. Furthermore, when you know your worth independently, you begin to pursue your own passions and desires without the fear of judgment or criticism. Many people hold themselves back because they are worried about what others will think or whether they will succeed. But when you recognize your inherent value, you realize that you have the power to create your own path. You stop waiting for permission to chase your dreams, and instead you take ownership of your life. You understand that your passions are worthy of pursuit, regardless of what anyone else might say or think. Knowing your worth independently also means you no longer seek to fit into society's narrow definitions of success. The world has created a set of standards that many people feel compelled to follow. But these standards often don't align with what is truly meaningful to them. When you know your worth, you are no longer interested in living up to society's expectations. Instead, you define success on your own terms. You create your own vision of what a fulfilling life looks like, and you take steps every day to make that vision a reality. Your worth is not determined by your bank account balance, your social media following, or your job title. It is determined by how you show up in the world, how you treat yourself and others, and how you live in alignment with your true values. It's also important to recognize that knowing your worth independently is not about being arrogant or conceited. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone else. Rather, it's about having a healthy sense of self-respect and self-compassion. It's about understanding that you are just as deserving of love, success, and happiness as anyone else. It's about honoring your own needs, desires, and dreams without feeling guilty or selfish. When you truly know your worth, you are able to see the value in others as well. You don't need to compete with people because you understand that everyone has their own unique worth and that you are not diminished by anyone else's success. Knowing your worth independently also empowers you to let go of toxic relationships. Many people stay in relationships because they don't believe they deserve better or because they fear being alone. But when you know your worth, you recognize that you are worthy of love, respect, and kindness. You don't settle for relationships that are based on manipulation, control, or fear. You learn to let go of people who don't add value to your life, who don't uplift you, and who don't respect you for who you are. This can be a painful process, but it's also incredibly freeing. It allows you to make room for relationships that are built on mutual respect and admiration, relationships that nourish and support your growth. The ability to know your worth independently also gives you the strength to say no when necessary. Many people struggle with saying no because they fear disappointing others or causing conflict. But when you value yourself, you understand that it's okay to prioritize your own well-being. Saying no doesn't make you selfish, it makes you strong. It means that you are taking control of your life and choosing what is best for you. You recognize that your time and energy are precious, and you use them wisely. Saying no is an act of self-care and self-respect, and it's one of the most powerful ways to protect your sense of worth. Moreover, knowing your worth independently helps you develop a growth mindset. When you value yourself, you are open to learning and growing. You understand that mistakes and failures are not a reflection of your worth, but rather opportunities to learn and improve. You are willing to take risks, step out of your comfort zone, and embrace challenges because you know that your worth is not tied to your achievements, but to your character and your perseverance. This mindset allows you to keep moving forward, even when things don't go as planned, because you know that your worth is constant and unchanging. Ultimately, knowing your worth independently is the key to living a life of authenticity, confidence, and fulfillment. When you stop relying on others to define your value, you begin to live in alignment with your true self. You stop playing small and start living boldly, unapologetically pursuing your dreams and goals. You create a life that is not dictated by outside forces, but by your own inner compass. You know that you are worthy of everything that life has to offer, and you no longer settle for less. When you know your worth, you become unstoppable because you recognize that your value is not negotiable, and you will stop at nothing to create a life that reflects that truth. Conditional love is one of the most pervasive traps that people find themselves caught in, often without realizing it. It's the kind of love that is based on circumstances, behaviors, or expectations rather than on the inherent value of a person. When love is conditional, it's often contingent upon how well you meet someone else's needs or standards. It's love that is given only when you're performing a certain way, acting in a certain manner, or fulfilling a role that others expect from you. Unfortunately, this kind of love is fleeting, fragile, and ultimately unsatisfying. It can leave you constantly chasing approval, validation, and affection, never feeling secure or certain in your relationships. The problem with conditional love is that it creates a cycle of dependence and insecurity. When love is given based on specific conditions, it always feels like a transaction. You may love someone, but the love you receive in return is contingent upon your actions, your behavior, or your ability to live up to another person's standards. Over time, this pattern erodes your sense of self-worth and makes you feel like you are never truly loved for who you are, but for what you do or how well you conform. It breeds anxiety and self-doubt because you are constantly worried about whether or not you will meet the ever-shifting conditions that others place on you. And in the absence of those conditions being met, love is withdrawn, creating emotional instability and an overwhelming fear of abandonment. This fear of losing conditional love often compels people to do things that are not true to themselves. They may begin to change their behavior, suppress their needs, or sacrifice their values in order to keep the love flowing. But this is a dangerous path. It leads to a life of people-pleasing, self-sacrifice, and ultimately a loss of identity. You end up living for the approval of others, neglecting your own desires and needs. Over time, this can result in bitterness, resentment, and a deep sense of emptiness because you realize that you are not loved for who you truly are, but for the persona you've created to meet others' expectations. Rising above conditional love means learning to break free from the expectations that others place on you and learning to love yourself unconditionally first. It starts with the understanding that you do not need to earn love. You do not need to prove your worthiness to anyone. Your value is inherent and undeniable. It's a recognition that true love is not transactional. It is a reflection of acceptance, trust, and understanding. You are worthy of love simply because you exist, not because of your actions, behaviors, or achievements. This kind of love is liberating because it removes the need to perform or meet someone else's conditions in order to receive affection and validation. When you rise above conditional love, you also begin to attract healthier relationships. Conditional love is draining and one-sided, often leaving you emotionally exhausted and unfulfilled. On the other hand, unconditional love is based on mutual respect, trust, and acceptance. It's a love that sees you for who you are, not for what you can do for someone else. It allows you to be your authentic self without fear of judgment or rejection. In these kinds of relationships, both parties support each other's growth and well-being without constantly measuring or comparing their worth. This creates an environment where both people can thrive and feel safe in expressing their true selves. Rising above conditional love also means letting go of toxic people who demand that you meet their conditions in order to be loved. It's not easy, especially if you've spent a long time trying to please someone or win their affection. But the truth is, people who only love you under certain conditions are not offering you real love. They are offering a version of love that is rooted in manipulation and control. In these relationships, love is a tool, a means to an end. But when love is genuine, it is freely given, without expectation or demands. It's important to recognize that your worth is not determined by how much you can do for someone else or how much you can meet their needs. You are not a commodity to be traded for affection. You are a person deserving of love simply for existing. Letting go of the need for conditional love also means learning to trust yourself and your ability to love. When you rely on others to define your worth or love you according to their conditions, you give away your personal power. But when you rise above this, you reclaim that power. You begin to love yourself more deeply and unconditionally, accepting all parts of who you are, flaws and all. You stop waiting for someone else to love you in order to feel worthy. Instead, you start loving yourself first. This is not an act of arrogance or narcissism. It is an act of self-respect and self-care. It means that you honor yourself, your boundaries and your needs. It means that you choose to nurture yourself, even when others fail to do so. Rising above conditional love also requires you to practice forgiveness, both for others and for yourself. When you are constantly seeking approval or validation, you may find that you're disappointed, hurt, or betrayed by those who only love you under certain conditions. This can lead to feelings of bitterness, anger, or resentment. But to rise above conditional love, you must let go of these negative emotions. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing or tolerating toxic behavior. It means releasing the emotional grip that these situations have on you. When you forgive, you free yourself from the power that conditional love has over you. You stop letting other people's expectations or judgments determine how you feel about yourself. You take back your emotional freedom and choose to rise above the need for external validation. The journey to rising above conditional love also involves learning to be comfortable with vulnerability. Conditional love thrives on control, power, and fear. It thrives on the belief that you must keep up a certain facade in order to be loved. But when you let go of these illusions, you allow yourself to be vulnerable. You show up as you are, without hiding behind masks or personas. Vulnerability is not a weakness, it is a strength. It takes courage to be authentic and honest, to let others see the real you, and to trust that you will be loved and accepted for who you truly are. When you embrace vulnerability, you allow yourself to experience love in its purest form, love that is freely given without conditions. Rising above conditional love is ultimately about reclaiming your own sense of self-worth and autonomy. You no longer need to depend on others for validation or affirmation. You have the strength and the confidence to stand on your own, knowing that you are worthy of love and respect, regardless of what others may say or do. This allows you to cultivate a deep sense of inner peace, because you no longer feel controlled by the whims and judgments of others. You begin to live life on your own terms, trusting in your own judgment and valuing yourself above all else. In conclusion, rising above conditional love requires you to break free from the chains of dependence and approval seeking. It means letting go of toxic relationships and unhealthy attachments that are based on transactional love. It means learning to love yourself unconditionally and accepting your worth as a fundamental truth. It requires you to be vulnerable, to practice forgiveness, and to trust in your own strength and ability to navigate life without needing to meet others' expectations. When you rise above conditional love, you embrace a life of authenticity, freedom, and deep fulfillment. You realize that the most important love you will ever experience is the love you give to yourself, and that is the kind of love that lasts a lifetime. To become unstoppable, one must first understand what it truly means to be unstoppable. It's not about being invincible or flawless. It's about developing a mindset and a set of behaviors that allow you to face challenges, setbacks, and failures without losing your sense of purpose or direction. Becoming unstoppable is not about avoiding difficulties. It's about embracing them, learning from them, and growing stronger with each one. It is about having the resolve to keep going when everything inside you tells you to stop. It's about building a mindset that turns obstacles into opportunities and consistently pursues growth no matter the circumstances. Most people think that being unstoppable is about doing more than others or working harder, but it's far deeper than that. It's about knowing that no matter how hard you fall, you can always rise again. It's about being able to endure hardship and suffering while maintaining your integrity, your belief in yourself, and your vision. Being unstoppable comes from within, from the unshakable belief that you have the power, the resilience, and the persistence to keep moving forward, even when the world seems to be against you. The first step in becoming unstoppable is to shift your mindset. Your mind is the most powerful tool you have, and it shapes everything in your life. When you adopt an unstoppable mindset, you begin to see setbacks not as failures, but as necessary steps in the process of growth. You stop seeing obstacles as signs that you're not meant to succeed and start viewing them as challenges to be overcome. The mind is the battleground where your success or failure is determined. If you believe that you are unstoppable, then nothing will be able to break you. Your mind must become your greatest ally, not your greatest enemy. A key part of an unstoppable mindset is resilience. Life will knock you down time and time again. You will face disappointments, rejections, failures, and betrayals. But being unstoppable is not about avoiding these hardships. It's about developing the mental fortitude to get back up every time. The ability to bounce back from setbacks, to keep going when the path ahead seems unclear, is what truly sets the unstoppable apart from the rest. Resilience isn't about being emotionless or indifferent to pain. It's about acknowledging the pain, feeling it, and then moving forward regardless. The people who are truly unstoppable are the ones who rise after every fall, who learn from their mistakes and adapt their approach. They do not allow failure to define them. Another critical component in becoming unstoppable is the willingness to take responsibility for your own success. In a world that often tries to place the blame for our failures on external circumstances or other people, Taking full responsibility for your life and outcomes is what separates the successful from the unsuccessful. Unstoppable individuals do not waste time blaming others, complaining, or making excuses. They know that their success is ultimately in their own hands. They take full ownership of their actions, their choices, and their outcomes. They understand that while they cannot always control what happens to them, they can control how they respond. In every situation, they ask themselves, what can I do to move forward, rather than why is this happening to me? This mindset shifts the focus from helplessness to empowerment. Becoming unstoppable also means developing an unshakable sense of purpose. When you know why you are doing something, it becomes much easier to continue moving forward when things get tough. The unstoppable person is driven by a deep sense of purpose that is greater than the circumstances they face. When you are clear about your goals and have a deep connection to your why, you are less likely to be swayed by the opinions or actions of others. A person with a strong sense of purpose can endure criticism, rejection, and even failure because they are not focused on the momentary challenges, they are focused on the bigger picture. Their vision propels them forward, and it is this sense of purpose that allows them to remain unstoppable in the face of adversity. A crucial factor in becoming unstoppable is the ability to maintain a high level of self-discipline. Discipline is the ability to take consistent action toward your goals, even when you don't feel like it. It is the ability to stay committed to your vision despite the distractions, doubts, or temptations that may arise. Being unstoppable doesn't mean working nonstop, but rather working strategically and consistently regardless of how you feel. There will always be days when you don't feel like moving forward, but it's on these days that your discipline is tested. Those who are truly unstoppable don't wait for motivation to strike. They rely on their discipline to carry them through the hard times. They develop daily habits and routines that align with their goals and refuse to let their emotions dictate their actions. Discipline means staying focused, even when the work is difficult, tedious, or boring. It's about doing what needs to be done, even when you'd rather do something else. Unstoppable individuals also understand the importance of persistence. Persistence is about continuing to move forward despite the challenges, failures, or setbacks. It is about having the grit to keep pushing when others give up. Persistence is the difference between success and failure because it separates those who achieve their goals from those who quit before they reach them. An unstoppable person doesn't see rejection as the end, they see it as a lesson and a step closer to success. Every no is just one step closer to a yes. Every failure is an opportunity to learn, adapt, and grow stronger. Persistence is the willingness to keep going, even when it feels like the odds are against you. It is about refusing to be discouraged. No matter how many times you fall short or how many obstacles are placed in your path, the road to success is never easy, but those who persist are the ones who ultimately reach their destination. Another key factor in becoming unstoppable is self-confidence. Confidence comes from a deep belief in your own abilities, talents, and judgment. When you are confident in yourself, you are not easily shaken by the opinions of others or by external circumstances. Confidence allows you to stay true to yourself, your vision, and your purpose, regardless of what others may think. The unstoppable person has a strong sense of self-worth and knows that their value does not depend on external validation. They believe in their ability to overcome obstacles and achieve their goals, and this belief gives them the strength to continue moving forward, even when faced with challenges. Confidence is not about arrogance, it is about self-assurance and trust in your own abilities. Along with confidence comes the importance of maintaining a positive attitude. Optimism is a vital component of becoming unstoppable because it shapes how you view the world and your circumstances. A positive mindset helps you see possibilities instead of problems, opportunities instead of obstacles, and solutions instead of challenges. When you maintain a positive attitude, you are more likely to find creative solutions to problems and more likely to remain motivated and inspired. A positive attitude is contagious. It attracts like-minded individuals and opportunities that align with your goals. It also helps you stay resilient when things don't go according to plan, because you understand that setbacks are temporary and part of the process. Unstoppable people also understand the importance of taking action. You can have all the goals, dreams, and intentions in the world, but if you do not take consistent action toward achieving them, you will never move forward. Becoming unstoppable means taking deliberate, consistent steps toward your goals, no matter how small. It means refusing to be paralyzed by fear or doubt and taking action, even when you're not sure of the outcome. Unstoppable individuals know that action is the key to progress, and they commit to taking action every day, regardless of how they feel. In the end, becoming unstoppable is not about avoiding failure or avoiding pain. It's about developing the resilience, discipline, confidence, and persistence to keep moving forward despite these things. It's about staying true to your purpose, refusing to give up, and never allowing external circumstances to dictate your worth or your potential. When you cultivate the mindset and behaviors of an unstoppable person, you will find that no challenge, no setback, and no obstacle can stand in your way. The world may throw challenges your way, but if you are truly unstoppable, you will continue to rise, evolve, and move closer to your dreams.